Welcome back to the deep dive. We've got a stack of interesting things to get through today, but we are starting with the document that, honestly, when I first saw the title in our research pile, I almost put it in the wrong folder.
The wrong folder. What do you mean?
Well, I saw the title, What a Boarder Can Learn from Roger Federer, and my brain just immediately went, okay, great, we're pivoting.
Right.
Grab your rackets, sweatbands on. We're doing a sports analysis show now. I was ready to talk about topspin.
It definitely has that vibe at first glance, for sure.
Right. But then I actually opened the file and I realized, wait a second, this isn't about tennis technique at all, is it?
Not even a little bit.
We aren't here to fix anyone's backhand.
No. I mean, look, tennis is the vehicle, sure, it's the hook. But the engine driving this piece is something completely different.
Okay.
It's actually a really sophisticated, a high-level guide on emotional intelligence and character development. And what makes it so unique is that it is specifically tailored for students living in boarding schools.
Which, to be fair, is a unique environment. I didn't go to boarding school, but the way this text describes it, wow. It sounds intense.
It is intense,
Yeah.
and I think that's the brilliance of using someone like Federer as the model here. The source isn't interested in his serve percentage or, how many trophies are in his cabinet.
It's not about the stats?
No, it's interested in the man behind the player. We're here to analyze his behavior, his psychology.
So it's a case study in character, basically.
Yeah.
And using a global icon as the benchmark.
Exactly. And the mission of this deep dive is to unpack three specific qualities that the text really highlights: composure, humility, and emotional control.
Right.
And the argument the text makes is that these aren't just, nice to haves or things your grandma tells you to be. They are the secret sauce for surviving and thriving in that boarding house environment.
Okay, let's set the scene a little bit because the source material is very clear about the context. It calls boarding life full of moments where emotions run high, which, for anyone who hasn't lived in a dorm, that might sound a bit dramatic, but the text lists the triggers. A tough match, a disappointing grade, an argument with a friend, or, and this one hit home for me, just feeling tired and overwhelmed.
And that's the reality of that environment.
Yeah.
You have to remember, in a boarding school, you are living where you learn. There is no going home at 3 p.m. to decompress.
No escape.
There's no escape. You're surrounded by peers, noise, social hierarchy, and academic expectations 24/7. It is a pressure cooker.
So the stakes for emotional management are just inherently higher because you're always on.
You're always on stage, in a way. And that brings us to the core thesis of the document. It proposes a pretty heavy idea right out of the gate.
Which is?
In these high-pressure moments, your reaction matters more than the situation itself.
Okay, let's unpack that. Your reaction matters more than the situation. That's a bold claim. It almost sounds a little dismissive of the problem, like, oh, don't worry about it, just smile.
I don't think it's dismissing the problem. I think it's shifting the agency.
Shifting the agency.
Yeah, it's about control. I mean, think about it. You can't control the grade you just got on that history paper. It's already written.
Right, it's done.
You can't control the referee making a bad call in the match. You definitely can't control if your roommate is chewing loudly when you're trying to study. Those are external variables.
Those are the situations.
Exactly. But you have absolute 100% authority over how you respond to those variables. The text is saying your power lies in the response, not in trying to control the uncontrollable world around you.
Which brings us to the first big segment of the text, and I think this is where the Federer comparison really starts to shine, the skill of composure.
Right.
The document draws this really interesting and slightly funny parallel between Roger Federer's career and, well, a student's life.
It does sound like a bit of a stretch at first, doesn't it? Federer is on center court at Wimbledon.
Millions of dollars on the line.
The royal family is watching.
Yeah.
And the student is, taking a math test or trying to get to the dining hall before the good food runs out.
Right. The source lists Federer's pressures, championship points, global audiences, huge expectations. And then it lists the boarder's pressure, exams, performances, selection for teams, busy weeks, and the classic lack of sleep.
But here's the insight, and this is backed by psychology. To your nervous system, stress is stress.
Oh, that's interesting.
Your body doesn't actually know the difference between a Wimbledon final and a scary chemistry exam. The physiological response, the tightness in your chest, the racing thoughts, the sweaty palms.
The cortisol spike?
It's the exact same mechanism. Your body is just reacting to a threat.
So the internal experience is identical, even if the external stakes are wildly different.
Precisely. And this is where the text drops a little nugget of information that completely contradicts the image I have of Roger Federer.
Right.
When you think of him, what comes to mind?
The Iceman. Cool, calm, collected. He never sweats. He looks like he's floating. Even when he loses, he looks elegant.
Right, we think he was born that way.
Yeah.
But the source explicitly says, when Federer was younger, he had a quick temper.
I actually had to double check that. So he was smashing rackets, shouting.
He was emotional, he got frustrated, he was a bit of a hothead. And I love that detail because it busts the biggest myth about composure.
Which is what?
That it's a personality trait.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we say she's just a chill person or he's naturally high-strung. But the text is arguing that for Federer, and by extension for any student, composure is a skill.
A skill, meaning it's like a backhand. You have to drill it. You have to practice it.
Exactly. He didn't just wake up one day as the calmest man in tennis. He learned to manage it because he realized his temper was costing him matches.
Okay.
And the text makes a crucial distinction here. Composure doesn't mean you don't feel nervous or frustrated.
Oh, that's huge. Because I think a lot of people, especially teenagers, think being calm means being a robot. They think if they feel angry, they've already failed.
Not at all. The source says it means you don't let those feelings control your actions. You can be boiling with rage inside because of a bad call. You could be terrified. But your external action remains steady. That gap between the feeling and the action, that is the skill.
Okay, but how? How do we actually do that? Because it's easy to say be steady, but when you're tired and your roommate is being annoying, that red mist descends pretty fast.
It does. The source actually breaks it down, a 3-step process.
What are the steps?
Step 1 is just pausing.
Which sounds easy, but is the hardest thing in the world when you're in the heat of the moment.
It is the hardest. But that split-second pause is the difference between a disaster and a solution. It's about arresting the momentum of the emotion. When the anger spikes, you literally just stop.
Don't speak, don't type, don't throw anything.
Just pause.
Okay, so we freeze the frame. What's step 2?
Step 2 is refocusing. This is where you bring your brain back online. You acknowledge, okay, I'm angry. What is the actual goal here? And then step 3 is responding instead of reacting.
Responding instead of reacting. I want to dig into that because the text leans on it heavily. What is the difference, practically speaking?
A reaction is biological. It's knee-jerk. It's the lizard brain.
Right.
Someone yells, you yell back. Something breaks, you panic. It's automatic. A response is cognitive. It's a choice. You take in the data, you process it, and you choose the best course of action. Federer reacts to the ball, but he responds to the pressure.
I love that. And the source translates this into boarding house reality with some really specific examples.
Yeah, to ground it in the student experience.
Like this one. Walking away from an argument instead of escalating it.
Think about how powerful that is in a dorm. 2 students are tired, it's 10 p.m., they're bickering about whose turn it is to clean up. The reaction is to shout, to make it personal.
To bring up past grievances.
Exactly. The response is to recognize, hey, we're both exhausted, nothing good happens right now. And you walk away. You choose peace over being right in that second.
Here's another one that I think is really difficult. Taking a breath before responding to feedback.
That's a big one for students. A teacher or a coach gives you critical feedback. This essay isn't good enough, or you're being benched. The ego just wants to snap back, to defend, to argue.
It's not fair.
Right. The Federer approach is to take that breath, process the information, and respond to the content, not the tone. It's about saying, is there truth in this? Rather than, I am under attack.
And the last example the text gives is the toughest pill to swallow. Accepting disappointment without blaming others.
Oof. Yeah, that's about ownership. It's so easy to say, the teacher hates me, or the coach has favorites.
It protects the ego.
It does. But if you didn't make the team and you blame the coach's bias, you learn nothing. If you accept the disappointment, you can ask, what do I need to work on? One path leads to bitterness, the other leads to improvement.
So the key takeaway here, as the source defines it, is that emotional control isn't about being silent or passive. It's about being intentional.
Intentionality is the key word. You are choosing your behavior, not having your behavior chosen for you by your adrenaline.
Which leads us perfectly into the second big theme of the document. If composure is about how you handle yourself internally, this next part is about how you relate to everyone else. Let's talk about humility.
Humility. It's a word that gets thrown around a lot, but the text defines it very specifically through the lens of Federer.
It points out that he's one of the greatest players in history. Statistically, you can't deny it. Yet, he remained respectful, gracious in victory, dignified in defeat. He wasn't soft. He was a killer on the court. But he was kind.
And that combination is so rare. Usually we see elite competence come with a massive ego. Or we see great humility, but without the skill. To have both? That's magnetic.
So what does this look like for a boarder? The source says humility is winning without showing off.
Which is crucial in a community. If you get the top score on the test, great. Be proud. But you don't wave it in your roommate's face who just failed. You don't make your success someone else's failure.
And on the flip side, losing without making excuses. We touched on this, but it bears repeating.
It's that no excuses culture. Just owning the result. It shuts down all the drama.
And this next one is my favorite, and I think the most important for a healthy dorm. Supporting others even when you succeed.
That is the mark of a true leader in a boarding house. You can celebrate your own win while still lifting up the people around you. It's not a zero-sum game where for me to win, you have to lose.
But the text also gives us a bit of a reality check here. There is a section titled, How You Lose Matters as Much as How You Win. And I feel like this is where it gets real, because nobody wins all the time.
Especially not in a high-performing boarding school. You have hundreds of talented kids. The source left the hard truths. You won't always get the role. You won't always be selected. You won't always have the final say.
And for a high-achieving student who is used to being the best, that can be devastating.
It can be. But the text flips the script. It asks, so what? Why does losing with dignity even matter?
Right, why not just throw a fit?
According to the source, losing with dignity does three things. First, obviously, it builds resilience. But the second point is more interesting. It earns trust.
Earns trust. How does losing make people trust you?
Well, think about the people you know. Do you trust the person who throws a tantrum every time things don't go their way? The person who gets toxic when they lose?
No. You walk on eggshells around them.
Exactly. You manage them. But you do trust the person who is steady, the person who can handle adversity without falling apart. That person becomes a rock for the community.
And the third point the text makes, it shows maturity.
Which is what every student is ostensibly there to develop. But there's a payoff, too. The text argues this behavior often leads to greater success later.
It's playing the long game.
It is. If people like playing with you, working with you, and living with you, opportunities open up. If you're brilliant but toxic, those doors close.
That reminds me of this powerful line in the text. People don't just respect achievement, they respect character.
That's the bumper sticker right there. Achievement fades. Records are broken. Grades are forgotten, trust me. But character, that is the legacy you leave in that dorm.
This idea of legacy actually bridges us to the third segment, the ripple effect. The source zooms out from the individual student to the why this matters in boarding life section.
This is where we connect the individual to the collective. It makes the point that a calm and respectful environment, it doesn't just happen by accident.
The teachers can't just mandate it. You can't put be chill in the rule book.
No, it says it is created by the students. The atmosphere of the house is the sum total of all their behaviors.
There is a phrase here that I absolutely love. It says, composure is contagious, so is frustration.
That is the contagion theory of emotions. We've all felt it. You walk into a room where everyone is stressed, frantic, complaining.
You immediately feel your own cortisol spike. It's like secondhand smoke, but for anxiety.
Exactly. But the text says the opposite is true too. You see someone, maybe a senior student, who is calm during a crisis, who isn't freaking out about the exam, and just seeing them gives you permission to breathe. It lowers the temperature of the whole room.
That emphasizes the responsibility this places on each boarder then. You aren't just managing your emotions for your own sake.
And you are literally engaging in community service just by keeping your cool. You are an emotional thermostat.
I love that image. Are you turning the heat up or are you cooling it down?
That's the question every student should ask when they walk into the common room. What energy am I bringing into this space?
So let's look at where the document lands. We've talked about composure, humility, and the ripple effect. The document wraps up with a final thought for boarders.
And it completely redefines success.
It really does. It says you don't need to be the best at everything to be admired.
Which is a massive relief to hear, frankly. The pressure to be the best at everything. Academics, sports, arts. It's crushing. It's impossible.
Instead, it says you will be respected for three things. Staying calm when things go wrong, being humble when things go right, and treating others well in both moments.
It simplifies the whole social hierarchy down to those core interactions. It basically says, be a decent human being, be tough when it matters, and be kind when it matters.
And it concludes with what we might call the Federer method. Success isn't just performance, it is about self-control, respect, and grace.
And here's the promise the source makes. It says those qualities will take you much further than winning alone ever could.
That is a bold promise. Do we buy it?
Well, look at Federer's longevity. Look at the way he's adored even after retiring. He hasn't won a trophy in years, but his reputation, his legacy, it's untouched. The data backs it up.
Because winning gets you a trophy, character gets you a life.
Exactly. A trophy sits on a shelf and collects dust. Character opens doors for the next 40 years.
Wow. Okay, so let's recap. We started with a PDF that looked like a tennis manual, but turned out to be a masterclass in emotional intelligence.
We learned that composure is a skill, not a birthright. So if you have a temper, there's hope. We broke down the pause, refocus, respond technique.
Simple to say, hard to do. We also learned that humility isn't weakness, it's the foundation of trust. And that our emotions are contagious.
Yeah, we're constantly infecting the people around us with either stress or calm. It's not about the forehand, it's about the person holding the racket.
So, as we sign off, here is a provocative thought for you to carry with you today. We talked about how emotions are contagious. The source said, composure is contagious, so is frustration.
Right. It's a choice.
So look around you, your friends, your family, your roommates. Which one are you spreading to the people around you right now? Are you the infection of stress? Or are you the cure of calm?
That is the question.
Thanks for diving deep with us today. Keep learning, keep pausing, and we'll see you next time.